In the humid, tangled green of Panama's Colón province, the sound of boots crunching through wet soil echoes across what was once a US military base, Fort Sherman. Today, the site is alive again, but not as a relic of the Cold War. It's now the heart of a new joint exercise where US soldiers and Panamanian security forces are training side by side, not for war, but for survival. Across the dense canopy, the camera follows squads moving uphill, rifles in hand, their faces streaked with mud and camouflage paint. They advance slowly through the thick air, the sound of cicadas rising above the chatter of radio calls. It's a demanding environment, heavy humidity, unpredictable terrain, and the ever-present threat of the jungle itself. Here, the mission isn't to fight an enemy, it's to master nature. US troops drawn from specialized jungle warfare and survival units are working hand in hand with Panama's elite security personnel. The training is taking place on the historic grounds of the former Fort Sherman, once the US Southern Command's main jungle warfare school, shuttered after the handover of the Panama Canal. Decades later, the jungle has reclaimed most of it, but its strategic value remains unchanged. The joint drills are part of Washington's renewed push to strengthen regional partnerships against evolving security threats, not through firepower, but through shared resilience. For the soldiers gathered here, that means learning to endure heat, navigate swamps, build shelters, and find food where none seems to exist. It's a test of adaptability and cooperation. US Army Commander Cotto explains the significance of training in this unforgiving environment. We are focusing on an exchange of specialized knowledge that we cannot obtain anywhere else, she says. This jungle is unique, it is precious, but it represents a training ground that will challenge everyone who tries to train here. Her words underscore a simple truth. Survival here is a universal equalizer. Whether American or Panamanian, every participant must confront the same challenges: dehydration, isolation, and the limits of endurance. The images show security forces assembled at the edge of a clearing, their eyes fixed on instructors pointing toward a map on a whiteboard. They are briefed on route plans and emergency procedures before setting out into the undergrowth. Helicopters hover overhead, blades slicing through mist as troops are airlifted deeper into the jungle for field simulations. In one sequence, soldiers crawl through mud toward a wooden structure, securing its perimeter in a tactical drill that blends combat readiness with environmental awareness. This partnership goes beyond drills. It reflects Panama's growing role as a regional hub for counter-narcotics and border security operations. The country sits at the crossroads of the Americas, a key transit corridor for drug trafficking, illegal migration, and environmental crime. For Panama's armed forces, jungle mastery is not theoretical. It's essential for safeguarding its people and territory. Major Didier Santamaria of the Panamanian forces stresses that these exercises are about practical defense, not aggression. The training we conduct here is purely focused on our defense, our protection, and our peaceful coexistence, he says. It addresses our reality, the scourge of transnational organized crime and drug trafficking. His remarks reflect Panama's unique security challenge, the need to guard its vast, often inaccessible jungles from smugglers who know the terrain intimately. The collaboration also represents an evolution in the US-Panama defense relationship. Decades ago, US forces dominated these grounds. Today, they return not as occupiers, but as partners. The difference is visible. The exercises are led jointly, the planning shared, the learning mutual. American soldiers, more accustomed to deserts or urban environments, now rely on their Panamanian counterparts' knowledge of local flora, wildlife, and survival law. From the thick foliage, the narration moves to a camp where soldiers sit cross-legged around makeshift fires, learning how to purify water from vines and collect edible plants. US Army instructor Jeimie Deras emphasizes this collaboration. What we focus on is surviving in the jungle, she says. Our focus is on teaching survival, mainly to the Panamanians who already use these techniques, and we've started to add Panamanian tactics along with our own. Her tone is both instructive and admiring. The exchange flows both ways. Americans bring advanced survival gear and communications know-how, while Panamanians offer generations of hard-earned experience in these ecosystems. As day turns to dusk, soldiers navigate the forest with only red-tinted lamps, practicing silent movement and night orientation. The camera pans over thick vines and steaming underbrush as tropical rain begins to fall, instantly transforming trails into rivers of mud. Despite the downpour, the exercise continues, a reflection of the mindset these drills are designed to instill, adapt, endure, overcome. The presence of US forces here also carries geopolitical symbolism. After years of focusing on distant theaters like the Middle East and Indo-Pacific, Washington is renewing its attention to Latin America, a region where environmental threats, migration pressures, and organized crime now intersect. Joint exercises like this one serve as quiet signals of commitment. America isn't retreating from the hemisphere, it's reinforcing it, this time through partnership and mutual respect. At the same time, for Panama, the collaboration reinforces national pride. Once seen as dependent on US military oversight, Panama's modern forces now train as equals, recognized for their unique expertise. The country's jungle terrain is no longer a passive backdrop to US operations. It's an active classroom for multinational readiness. The script now widens to a broader reflection. This exercise is part of a larger US Southern Command initiative that includes humanitarian assistance, disaster response, and environmental security. As global climate patterns shift, the ability to operate effectively in dense tropical environments becomes ever more valuable, not just for combat, but for rescue, recovery, and stabilization missions across the hemisphere. We see soldiers learning to make rope from natural fibers, build elevated shelters to avoid snakes, and use tree sap to repel insects. Instructors emphasize minimal environmental impact, teaching how to train without destroying the fragile ecosystem. In this sense, jungle warfare has evolved into jungle stewardship, an acknowledgement that the survival of the soldier and the survival of the forest are interconnected. Ada Cotto's earlier remarks resonate again as the exercise nears its end. "This jungle is unique. It is precious," she said. The camera lingers on the forest canopy, sunlight filtering through giant leaves as the hum of helicopters fades. It's not just a setting, it's a living entity that tests every soldier's willpower and adaptability. What happens here may shape how future operations across Central and South America are conducted, with cooperation, respect for nature, and a focus on resilience rather than dominance. As the final drill concludes, US and Panamanian flags wave side by side against a backdrop of tropical rain. Soldiers exchange handshakes and patches, small symbols of a growing bond forged in one of the toughest environments on Earth. For many, it's their first time facing the raw power of the jungle. For others, it's a reminder that this terrain has long been their greatest teacher. In the end, what began as a tactical exercise becomes a shared story of endurance, a microcosm of how nations can learn from one another when they confront adversity together. The jungle, once a place of separation, has become a space of connection. And as Commander Cotto puts it simply, survival isn't just about staying alive. It's about learning from the land, from each other, and from every challenge that pushes the human spirit to adapt.